Bitcoin and altcoins taking a little dip. The question, why? The other question, is there room for a bounce, for bullish continuation to the upside, for new all-time highs, or is this a swing high? And are we getting ready to consolidate for continuation to the downside? What's up, everyone? Welcome to Crypto Capital Venture. Hit that subscribe, hit that like on the way in. I appreciate you. Let's jump into this video. This is Bitcoin on the 6-hour chart. Some really interesting things playing out on this 6-hour chart in terms of what we talked about in last night's video. Same thing with the hourly chart. We're going to dig into that. Fear, volatility index, S&P 500 index. This is what it looks like. You can just see there's a spike in fear, right? 20% right here. In terms of markets in general, and how is that playing into Bitcoin? Oftentimes the fear index really does translate onto the Bitcoin charts when there's some type of fear across the globe and across all markets. Right now there's some fear related to COVID, and what's interesting about it, confluent with that news, with that speculation, is right now today Congress going to be voting on the stimulus deal, which you think would actually be pushing markets. So there's kind of like a tug of war happening right now, and it's really interesting to see how this plays out in the next 24 hours. All markets across the board could get a bounce. So here's S&P. This is down like 1%. Interesting to see what that does. But let's jump into these Bitcoin charts, and let's discuss what's occurring right now and what has just transpired. Here's a very quick clip from last night's video. Bitcoin fall below 23,000 to 22,700. 22,700, the very important area to watch. Maybe we fall below. How does that candle on the 6-hour close? Do we have a wick below, but we're closing within the Fibonacci? That's what we have to track. So now we track it. Everybody, we got the dip. It's 6-hour. We tested. Now here's what's interesting. The initial 6-hour candle, we closed obviously below, but the next candle that opened, we wicked all the way down to the 21,000s, and Bitcoin currently just a huge bounce to where it is right now within the Fibonacci area. So we're talking a bounce of like 5 to 6%, and this is a 6-hour chart. This is pretty zoomed in here, and you can see Bitcoin right now, the 6-hour candle within this Fibonacci area. And so what we're going to look for is, where does this 6-hour candle close? Where does the next one close? How does Bitcoin now interact with this support area, this very critical support area down to $22,700? How does Bitcoin interact with that area? Interestingly enough, you can see Bitcoin also testing the apex on the ascending triangle that we've had charted, and we can get a better sense of what this looks like on the hourly chart. This could be, and we're going to have to really track this now, like in the coming hours. This is what I'm watching today. Bitcoin right around $23,000. This could be the very start of lower lows and lower highs for a deeper, steeper dip. And you have to be prepared for that. And this is oftentimes what it looks like, right? Bitcoin just interacting with a very key support area, this Fibonacci resistance, support. And also at the same time, interacting with a resistance area, which is the apex of that ascending triangle. And you can see Bitcoin doing that right now and failing on the hourly chart. So what happens in the immediate short term? One of two things are going to play out. This resistance will hold true as pretty much the first lower high from what we had up here, swing high. So this will be the first lower high. We get rejected at the apex, and then we really trickle back down, and we're putting in another lower low from this swing low that we just had. And this is what we're tracking on the hourly chart. And it's crazy. We've been really digging into these hourly charts lately. It's not something I always do, but everybody's eyes are on Bitcoin right now. So you can just see we have the opportunity to just, even on the hourly, we see Bitcoin moving as I do this video. And we're getting an opportunity to see how it interacts with this support area for Bitcoin. And then again, on this hourly chart, from this swing low to this swing high, we can put in this area. This is like that last wall of potential bounce support, 22,400 to 22,000, let's call it 100. Bitcoin could maybe see a bounce off of this area, and we can really turn this around in this new series of very short-term higher highs and higher lows. You can look for that. But if this breaks, right, and Bitcoin starts falling and we put in a new lower low, that really could be a really big initial sign that we're getting just this consolidation, a dip, potentially bigger dip than what we've seen in Bitcoin, one that we've been anticipating, and it could create a really good opportunity for all of you out there. One thing that's really interesting, and I want to go to a 6-hour chart zoomed out, is this, and this is probably the coolest thing for me just to track. So if you remember, we had this, and let me zoom out even more so you can see actually the whole chart. You remember that we had this symmetrical triangle, right? And we had this breakout target to right around 22,500 or so. And, you know, I charted this green rectangle the other day, maybe last week or something. And basically what it is it's that lower trend line is the target of this symmetrical triangle. And then the upper trend line is the target of the inverse head and shoulders, the year-long inverse head and shoulders. Let me zoom out on the 6-hour chart here. This is crazy. This is going back to 2019. You see it on the screen. The target for that inverse head and shoulders down here that you see, $24,000. So we hit like this really interesting resistance area, which is a short-term symmetrical triangle target and a long-term macro inverse head and shoulders target. And Bitcoin, we talked about this channel that it was in, and it still is in right now. And you can see it, this rectangle here, those two areas. And it's really cool to see how Bitcoin is going to once again interact with this resistance. This is what this is, resistance. We have two targets, a short-term and a mid-term, that Bitcoin is within right now. And that range is extremely interesting to me, because if Bitcoin, you know, can somehow manage to rally above this, and if we break, you know, if we really break this previous all-time high, which is essentially confluent with that inverse head and shoulders target, if we break that, if Bitcoin breaks that, I have to stop saying we break that. It's Bitcoin breaking it. If Bitcoin breaks that, then there could be just another rally up to our next target, which is $26,000 very easily. So it all starts on the 6-hour candle. Right now it's looking kind of strong, but time will tell how the 6-hour candle can close above this area, right? This bottom trend line area. And it's really just it's so confluent with what's going on in the hourly chart and the short-term chart. So that's kind of what I'm watching. I want to see what happens here. Does Bitcoin bounce, continue up to the upside, or are we starting to trickle down here? Trickling down, you go over to the weekly, you start getting a sense of what's going on. You can see how this area that we're talking about on the weekly is panning out to be a very big resistance area for Bitcoin. Is it going to end up historically being just this very short-term consolidation before continuation, right? We've seen that. We saw that a couple weeks ago. We saw that like a month ago on that red candle. Is it going to be one of those? Or is this going to be a true swing high resistance, and are the bulls going to stall out for a little bit and get a really just true consolidation, a true dip scenario? And will the RSI that has just defied all historical data on Bitcoin, will that finally come down a little bit? And if it does, you know, we have our targets to the downside, obviously, our big targets to the downside, which is the previous all-time high from 2017 is a really key area to watch. And then we have our entire bull market doors down here, confluent with that 20-week moving average. I'm not saying it's going to happen right away. Right? I'm not talking about just an immediate dip to 15,000, but what I am talking about, you want to track this 20-week moving average as it gets pulled up, right? If Bitcoin just consolidates and falls a little slowly, and Bitcoin 20-week moving average gets pulled up a little bit, you want to see those two kind of converge and come together, and that's where we start, you know, testing that support area, and that's what we're looking for. Again, it's going to be interesting. What happens with this stimulus deal? Do markets rally once again? I'm talking about traditional markets too. Bitcoin just riding the coattails of that as well. There's a lot of bullishness happening. Remember, the supply shock is still in play. So a lot of things going on right now, everybody. You want to be prepared for every scenario. And so in terms of what to do, right? In terms of what you're sitting like with your portfolio, everybody, I say it all the time. That is 100% up to you. This is the data. You see the scenarios. You see how they can play out. You have to make your own decisions in what you're comfortable with in terms of accumulations. I do. So I appreciate all you cruising by. I hope you're having a great day. Let me know your thoughts out there, how you're making out, what you think Bitcoin is going to do. Is the dip getting ready to happen, or is this just a very short-term throwback for Bitcoin? And really, price range-wise, from that swing high to this swing low, really just a 10% dip. It's nothing crazy. Really interesting to see if right now this is just being bought up, and if the story continues, where Bitcoin just defies that historical overbought data and it just keeps going up. I can't wait to see it. I'm just sitting back watching. I hope you're having a good day. Hit that subscribe, hit that like. I'll see you all in the next video. God bless.